Let's get it, 580 Sports Talk on a Wednesday afternoon. Thanks for being with us on the Sports Voice of Kansas, 580 WIBW, FM 104.9, online at 580WIBW.com. And on our video stream, you can catch us on YouTube, 580 Sports Talk, or on Facebook, WIBW News. Dan Lucero, Brendan Wrzinski, Spencer Dupuis will be along in a little bit. It's all of us on the show today. The cast will be ever-changing. We'll have faces come in, faces check out. We've all got places to be on this Wednesday afternoon. But we're so grateful that you are spending your afternoon right here with us on 580 Sports Talk. And hopefully you've got power and you've stayed dry after that line of thunderstorms moved through town. The threat for severe weather remains, and just know that we will keep you up to date on that should events warrant here on 580 WIBW as we go along today. I am Dan Lucero. Brendan Wrzinski is across the glass for the moment. And Spencer Dupuis, as I mentioned, will be along in a little bit. We got a jam-packed 3 hours of 580 Sports Talk to bring you today. Lots of Chiefs stuff to get to. Some things that I think are interesting to discuss with regards to the Chiefs, namely the perception of the Chiefs and the reality of the Chiefs are a little different right now, and I want to ask why that is. Also, the trade deadline is still a week away, but there have been a lot of moves. This is the most active NFL trade deadline I can remember, Brendan. I don't know about you, but it certainly feels as though this is as active as an NFL trade deadline has ever been, with a week still left to make moves.
The only one I can remember having not just this many trades, but this many like big name trades, I think you go back to 2022, if I remember correctly, because that is the year the Jaguars traded for Calvin Ridley while he was suspended. The Vikings traded for TJ Hawkinson. Bradley Chubb went to the Dolphins, and the biggest fish of all of them was Christian McCaffrey in that blockbuster deal between the Panthers and Niners. But, I mean, that's the only one I can think of that compares. And there's some really good players in there. McCaffrey's a superstar. But this year, I mean, Amari Cooper is older, but he's a real dude. I mean, that's a real contributor for Buffalo. DeAndre Hopkins is older, but I think he's going to be a real contributor for Kansas City. Deontay Johnson has his flaws as a player, but is immediately going to improve Baltimore's offense with his separation ability. The Vikings made a move to go get Cam Robinson yesterday, who is a name, a former high draft pick, has been in Jacksonville for forever. That's a real move. These aren't just my buddies and I, when we used to play Status Pro simulation baseball, very similar to Stratomatic. We used to call them crap for crap. That's what we used to call those trades.
My garbage for your garbage.
Yeah, exactly. Like we're not seeing the slop. That's what we're not seeing. These are big name moves that are happening.
Contributors, guys that make your team better up front, not on the fringes.
Yeah.
Like at the top of your roster. Yeah, more of those moves we've seen this year than we've seen in other years. And again,
even Joshua Uche is that same kind of thing. He's not a star by any means, but he's a useful player. He's a former second-round pick. He was on a successful Patriots team. People know who that is, and people know he's a good player. We don't see that a lot at the NFL deadline, which has made it kind of fun, honestly.
Yeah.
Also fun that the Chiefs are involved.
Yes, and are they going to stay involved is a question that we'll kind of gnaw on a little bit later on this hour. Also, the most depressing Patrick Mahomes stat, and the most depressing, usually when we talk about graphs with Patrick Mahomes, he's breaking the graph. This is the depressing Patrick Mahomes graph. This Patrick Mahomes graph made me sad.
It sucks.
And we have to discuss that. So we'll get into that a little bit later on as well. Lots of Chiefs stuff here to open up 580 Sports Talk. We're going to get some hoops as well. K-State, KU, Washburn, all playing exhibition basketball last night. Both Brendan and I were at Allen Fieldhouse for the KU Washburn opener. We'll talk a little bit about both of those teams, and we'll have some thoughts on K-State, their exhibition opener against Fort Hays State. In case you missed it, it was an 84-53 win for KU over Washburn. K-State beat Fort Hays State 74-60. So those were the final scores last night.
Yeah, not only were we both in attendance, we also lived to tell the tale. I don't think I've ever sweat so much in my life. Now, I get worked up, okay? If you've ever been kind enough to listen to a game I'm calling, you know I get animated. So I understand,
Sure.
You break into a little bit of a sweat. close quarters down there, courtside at Allen Fieldhouse, sure. Man, it was hotter than hell. Oh, my Lord, in that building.
The vaunted new HVAC system at Allen Fieldhouse did not have a great debut.
The H in HVAC there stands for hot.
It was, man, I started the game down courtside, and I'm sweating. I had been down there for 2 minutes, and I told you, man, I think I'm going to go up where it's a little less cramped. It'll probably be a little less hot, and go up in the corner, section 13, where they usually seat the press. And I was right about one thing. It was less cramped. Sat next to our guy, Trenton Kraxner, calling the game for KJHK. So, yeah, it was nice to see him. So I was right about that. It was less cramped. I was wrong about the other thing. It was hotter.
Brutal.
Just really, really hot.
We'll get to the basketball later, but real quick, just while we're opening the show, thoughts on the renovations?
You know, it's a little bit of a bummer if you're up in the corners and you can't see the stat boards.
Yeah.
Then, like, they don't offer that information on the main Jumbotron anymore, the overhanging scoreboard, like player points and fouls. That was nice information to be able to see. And now if you're high enough up, you can't see it in the corners where the boards are. And from my perspective, that only is but so annoying because I can just look on my, I go to the live stats that I can access and see who's got points and who's got fouls. But that's the one thing I think they should have put boards in all four corners, frankly, instead of just two. But they didn't ask for my input. Otherwise, I thought the widened concourses were very nice. Nice like artwork on those upstairs. Yeah. So yeah, I was impressed.
My wife went to the game. She was impressed by the expanded concessions options.
Man, listen, okay. I walked to my press seat. I walked by Big's Barbecue was serving burn ends. There was a nacho table. There were some tinga tacos. And it took every ounce of my willpower not to like splurge on some concessions and bring them to press row.
I'm sorry to derail the conversation. We'll get to more basketball a little bit later on. We've got plenty of Chiefs to get to. What is wrong with you? All that. I need to bring this up. From the Top City Metal Supply text line, 785-272-9429. We have a text from the 785. Our texter must also be watching the stream today.
Uh-huh.
Hey, Brendan, when are you going to join the club and grow some facial hair? Man, I tried. I shaved this week. The reason I don't ever shave is just because I'm lazy. But I shaved this week because I knew I had 4 games in 5 days plus a coach's show. I wanted to look nice. Basketball on the court for the first time this year for Washburn. I wanted to look nice. It sucks. Like, I can't grow good facial hair. Even if I let it grow for a month, I still end up with these little patches on my chin that won't fill in. It looks like crap. So I'm not going to join that exclusive club because it looks awful.
I just want everybody to know, you may think you want that from Brendan. You do not want that from Brendan.
When we went to San Antonio for the Final Four in 2018, I've shared this story many times before, but we're in the middle of a drive, and I don't remember if it was asked by Dan, you, or Jake, or if it just somehow came up naturally. I made a comment that I was going to do a tournament beard and I wasn't going to shave until the NCAA tournament was over. And Dan told me, with not a shred of humor in his voice, I shouldn't be allowed near a school looking like that.
Yeah, I meant it. I meant what I said.
So yeah, it stinks. And that's why I won't. So now you know.
So yeah, that's the answer to that question. Why won't Brendan do facial hair? Because that should be all the reason anyone needed. Trevor's trying to bully you into it on the YouTube live comments. Grow the beard.
I can't. It doesn't happen. It
No
peaks. It plateaus.
November. Man, I did a playoff beard for the 2020 postseason and haven't shaved my face in full since. I've just had this. Like, I've trimmed it a little bit, which has been very necessary, but yeah, you're seeing. I used to do that every year. I was clean shaven, except I would do like a basketball playoff beard, and 2020 just kind of made it my permanent face, and so that's what you're dealing with.
And now it's what your son recognizes, so you can't change it.
Yeah, it's what how my wife knows me. Like, yeah, it's really really difficult. I think to be able to go back at this point. I'm too far down the road. Anyway, you can also text the program, Top City Metal Supply text line, 785-272-9429. And we invite you to text the show and be a part of the live chat if you're watching on YouTube. Again, the channel is 580 Sports Talk on YouTube. We have a live chat feature. Interact with us and other listeners of the show, viewers of the show. You can also comment if you're watching on Facebook, WIBW News. Bunch of other stuff we're going to get to today. We got the semifinals of What Is Wrong With You for the month of October. Tim Fitzgerald's going to join us from GoPowercat.com for the Wildcat Wrap-up. We have a K-State player profile today. Freshman tight end Will Anciaux joined me earlier this week. We're going to get Will's thoughts on coming from a very athletic family with 5 siblings. Get his thoughts on all of a sudden being a touchdown machine for the K-State offense. And we're going to hear him try and duplicate the worst mispronunciations of his name that he's ever heard.
Oh, that'll be fun.
Anciaux. You've had to learn it if you're a K-State watcher. It is Will Anciaux, and he joins us in the 5 o'clock hour. So all that good stuff still to come on today's program. But let's start with the Chiefs and the perception versus the reality. And I want to start this discussion with a question, Brendan. Who has the best 53-man roster in the National Football League? Top to bottom, tip to tail, who would you say has the best 53-man roster in the league?
Oh, okay. Clarifier. Are we saying active right now or all things considered? Because if we're including players who are not currently playing, I'm still going to go with San Francisco.
Okay.
But they haven't had McCaffrey all year. They don't have Brandon Ayuk right now. They don't have Dre Greenlaw right now because of his torn ACL from the playoffs last year. So if we're just saying right now as it stands, we probably can't go with them.
But okay, then let's make it healthy 53-man roster. Or we could even do it right now, like players, if you want to throw out players who are not returning for the season. So if you want to not consider Brandon Ayuk with the 49ers, or if you want to not consider Rashee Rice with the Chiefs, players who are either on the 53 right now or will return to the 53 eventually this season?
This is a good question. I don't think I can put the Chiefs at the very top. I think they've got an argument to be in the upper grouping. The team that comes to mind, honestly, is Philadelphia, because I think their problem is more on the sideline than on the field, to be honest with you.
Philadelphia's always had a really deep 53-man roster.
For years.
Howie Roseman's always done a great job of building depth for that team.
And their rookies are playing really well.
Detroit's roster is really good, I think.
Oh, man, without Hutch, though, I mean, their defense is still good. With Aiden Hutchinson, their defense can be really good.
Yes.
Losing him is tough.
Notice that the first 3 teams that have come up in this discussion are NFC teams.
They are NFC teams. Yeah. No, you're totally right.
So where do you rank the Chiefs?
I'd put them behind all 3 of those teams.
Okay.
Well, no, you know what? I wouldn't put them behind San Francisco. As they stand today, I would not put them behind San Francisco.
I'm not sure I'd put them behind Detroit. I'm not sure I'd put them behind anybody. And here's the argument from me why I think the Chiefs have the best 53-man roster in the NFL. Because of what they're missing and what they're still doing while they're missing what they're missing. They are down running back 1. And running back 1 is a very good player. They are down wide receiver 1 and wide receiver 2. And those are well established to be very good players. They are down cornerback 2, who was playing at an elite level to start this season. They are down 4 important guys who are either established or were playing like top-end guys at their position. They are 7-0 anyway. That's the argument for me, is we talk a lot about teams in the context of how they are playing in the moment and how individual players are performing on their roster. And a lot of it is through the prism of quarterback play. And that makes sense because it's the most important position on the roster.
Sure.
And I'm not sitting here and saying that the Chiefs are not a flawed team. Hell, we talked about them yesterday. We went through them in detail, right? Like these are the things that the Chiefs have had some problems with, positions that have been problematic for the Chiefs to this point. But everybody's got flaws, right? Baltimore's flaws made them lose to the Raiders and the Browns. Cincinnati's flaws. Cincinnati, I thought coming into this year might have had a case for being one of the best 53-man rosters in the league, even though I don't know how long they're going to keep it together. Their flaws have them at 3-5. San Francisco's flaws have them as a 500 football team right now. The Chiefs have beaten Baltimore. They have beaten Cincinnati. They have beaten San Francisco. And while, yes, those teams were not whole when they played the Chiefs, neither were the Chiefs. And to me, the discussion about the Chiefs yes, we hold them to a high standard because they're the 2-time reigning Super Bowl champions, and we should. Like that's natural, I think, to look at a team that has won the last 2 Super Bowls and have built a roster with the intent of winning another. That is the standard. We hold them to a championship standard. I think we are fair to point out when they do not meet a championship standard or positions at which they do not quite meet a championship standard. Those exist on this roster. They're 7-0 and they've won 13 straight games with largely this same core. And if you want to throw out week 18 last year when the streak started, and who was quarterback last year, backup? Gabbert. When Blaine Gabbert was throwing to McCole Hardman all game, okay, throw it out. That's still 12 straight wins. And with the first 4 of those coming in the playoffs, those are all against good teams. And the Chiefs have played one of the toughest schedules in the league this year and run the rack. It is hard as hell to win that many games in a row, even if you're splitting up the season in any stretch in the NFL. And I think we take it for granted a little bit in the sense that, and to me, this is the biggest reason why, and you might disagree. The biggest reason we take for granted what the Chiefs are doing is that they aren't doing it because they're scoring 40 points a game. Because when we think of the Chiefs, we think of Mahomes, we think of Reed, we think of offense, we think of big points, because we're all still stuck in 2018 and 2019 when they were the most amazing thing we'd ever seen from an offensive perspective, where they felt unstoppable. They're a different kind of great now, but they are undeniably not just great, but they're better than their peers. Like, the evidence is there. They are better than their peers.
So I agree that it's great. It's just in a different way. But I would push back on that equaling having the best roster, because I think they're great in a different way because they have to be, because they don't have the same kind of talent, at least offensively. Defensively, the thing that's carrying, if you're talking about quality of roster, the thing that's carrying the Chiefs is the offensive interior line and the defense, which it sucks that Jalen Watson's hurt now as well. Like, that's carrying them because the defensive line has been good, even despite some of those numbers we went over yesterday. I like adding Uche. Eventually, you're going to get Amenahu back. I like that group a lot. I think it's the best linebacker room in the NFL, especially with Leo Chanel playing well and getting better. I think Bolton, Tranquil, Chanel is the best linebacker room in the league. Defensive backfield is good. You got to figure out what you're doing at CB2, but I don't think that's a death knell for this team by any means. They are near the top for me, but I don't know that I would equate best roster with winning the most, because I think there are other.
It doesn't always line up like that. So like, I understand that.
Scheduling, coaching, things like right now, if you ask me who's the best team in the NFL, I would tell you Detroit, to be completely honest. Like, as they are playing right now, I would go with Detroit. I don't know that that's necessarily the same question as, okay, head to head, 2 best teams, who wins. I'd probably tell you the Chiefs win in a Super Bowl between those 2 teams right now. I think those are 2 different things, because Andy Reid gets the benefit of the doubt. As many head-scratching things as he does in the last 6 years, who has been a better coach? Who has pulled the right strings more often than Andy Reid? Nobody. Dan Campbell, what do we think of him doing I think Dan Campbell's a really good coach. Way better than I ever expected he would be. What do we think of in terms of Dan Campbell in the playoffs?
They tricked off a big lead in the NFC Championship game,
gagging it away to the San Francisco 49ers. The Lions should have played the Chiefs in the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
By all accounts, they absolutely should have been there in the Super Bowl. So you give the Chiefs the benefit of the doubt in that regard. So I think we're sort of arriving at the same point, but approaching it from 2 different directions here. Like, I think the Chiefs are good. I think they have a good roster. I think the Chiefs have more on the sideline, in the front office, and intangible things that make up for any deficiencies they have compared to other teams' rosters in the league.
I think that's a good way to put it. Like, if they do have deficiencies, you have to have things. Your good traits have to outweigh the stuff that's negative, because every team has stuff that's negative stuff.
If you're a starting pitcher, today especially, but always, Greg Maddux never threw 100. He was never going to throw 100. But you know what he was going to do? He could pick out the seam in the catcher's mitt he wanted to hit and hit that spot. And he was perfect at it. Greg Maddux is... we don't have time to rank every pitcher ever, but
we don't.
If you told me he was a top 5 pitcher of all time, I'd say, okay, yeah, sure. I believe that. The aura around the history, the everything around him, I think factors into that too. But I think it's a similar kind of point here. The Chiefs might not have the most talented roster. I don't think they have the quarterback who's playing the best of anyone in the league. Now, I think we've spent so much time talking about Mahomes, different kind of guy, man. This isn't the same Mahomes. Last couple of games, he's been pretty good.
Yeah,
he hasn't
really
been flawless,
good. Yeah.
but he's been pretty good. I haven't checked the advanced box score, see if the math backs it up, but I've seen it with my own two eyes. I've seen every play. He's been a lot better. So he might not be the best playing right now, this second quarterback in the league, even if he is the best player overall in the NFL. They might not have the best pass catchers. Their best pass catcher has taken a step back because he's old in Travis Kelce, and that's to be understood. Question at left tackle, injuries on defense, all those understandable. But the Chiefs make up the difference and more because they know what they're doing at the end of games, which like 3 other teams in the NFL know how to handle those situations on a regular basis. They've got a good and aggressive front office that is willing to make changes to improve. And they have a head coach who, again, while occasionally prone to goofiness, knows how to win in these situations. And frankly, if there's any coach in the league that I would trust to win with an adverse talent situation, or like, hey, these pieces don't all necessarily fit perfectly, but I'll find a way to make it click, it's Andy Reid. Andy Reid won a lot of games with Donovan McNabb. Donovan McNabb was a very good player, kind of lost to time as a good quarterback for his era. Andy Reid also helped prop up Donovan McNabb quite a bit because he had plenty of flaws as a quarterback.
And we saw what it looked like as soon as he left Philadelphia.
And now with Patrick Mahomes, who's light years better than a player like that, you're talking about, okay, Mahomes is going to make up for a lot of these deficits that other guys have. The coach will make up for the rest. And that still puts us in the black into, if you're filling out you're balancing the checkbook of how good this roster is, you're still making up the difference with those intangible things. So if you include if you're just talking 53 guys on a piece of paper, rank these teams, I'd feel pretty comfortable not putting the Chiefs at the very top. But if you're also including what else makes a football team, I'm still taking the Chiefs over anybody.
Again, I just think it all comes to perspective, and so much of perspective is what we see on the scoreboard at the end of the game. I think Detroit's really good. I think I have some concerns about them because I don't know that outside of Brian Branch, they got a lot of dudes on defense, especially with the season-ending injury to Aiden Hutchinson. That's a really good team. They're 6-1. I think they're probably going to be the top seed in the NFC when it all shakes out. The Jayhawker in the YouTube live chat says, I think Detroit's the only team. I don't think anybody can beat the Chiefs with the exception of Detroit. I think Detroit's really good. Detroit has scored in their last 4 games 42, 47, 31, and 52 points.
52 points with a net 75 passing yards is so insane. That, honest to God, that says so much more about Tennessee than it does Detroit.
Yes.
That 52-point differential, right? Or 52 points allowed in that game.
Right.
But yeah, I mean, they're good, and I don't like it, but there's no... Mm-hmm. As a fan of another team in that division, there's no point in me saying, oh, well, I don't know. No, man, they're just really freaking good.
Right.
They're the best team in the NFC they're on a tier of their own in the NFC right now.
I would agree with that. But I think we look at the scoreboard and look, that matters that they're scoring a bunch of points and also scoring way more points. Like they beat Dallas 47-9. They beat Tennessee 52-14. This is not like, oh, they have to score 40 to win. Mm-hmm. They're not that kind of team. They're really good. This isn't me denigrating Detroit. This is just me saying I think that what they're doing is flashing and shiny in a different way than what the Chiefs are doing, because the Chiefs are doing, they're dominating too, but they're doing it by scoring 27 points.
2 quick things. One, the wild thing about Detroit is they're doing all of that. Their number 2 wide receiver is just addicted to getting in trouble.
Yeah, he's hit a bingo. Gambling, PEDs, and gun charges. I think that's a bingo.
Yeah, his brother's like, no, it's my gun. No, I promise it's my gun. And then Jameson Williams said, oh, wait, no, it's mine. Dude, come on. And then Sam Laporta has not done anything this year either. Sam Laporta has had 1 good game. He has 272 yards in 7 games. This dude was a second-team All-Pro a season ago. He doesn't even have 300 yards through 7 games so far. Pretty incredible.
What is Detroit's best win? It's got to be Minnesota, right? Joe asked in YouTube live chat, what is Detroit's best win? Probably at Minnesota. And they very nearly blew that game when David Montgomery fumbled with 5 minutes to go, and Minnesota turned it into the lead. They needed a last-second field goal to win that game.
Okay, if they beat Green Bay this weekend, and I kind of think they will, is that a better win than Minnesota?
Yes, because I think Green Bay is a better team than Minnesota.
I think so, too.
Even
I think it's a more complete team.
Well, it's going to be Green Bay with Malik Willis, which is a different question for me.
And Matt LaFleur actually said today they are willing to play Love without practice if he feels good enough.
That'd
Now,
be interesting.
This is a total loser take by me. I kind of would rather punt the week, to be honest. Like, Detroit's going to win the division. I don't have any qualms with that.
You'd rather have a healthy Jordan Love.
And the Packers have the bye next week.
Yeah.
Like, that's a sour taste in your mouth going into a bye, but I'd rather Jordan Love and Josh Jacobs and Jair Alexander all be healthy.
No, I think that makes a lot of sense.
I'm sorry. I know I hate loser takes like that. That's a major loser energy take, but it's kind of how I feel.
Will the Chiefs continue to add to their roster before the trade deadline next week? We'll discuss next. We're just getting rolling on this Wednesday edition of 580 Sports Talk. .35. We're just getting started on this Wednesday version of 580 Sports Talk. Dan, Brendan, Spencer, gang's all here. Brendan's going to dip out in the 4 o'clock hour because he's got Washburn women's basketball tonight at Bramlage Coliseum, the season opener in an exhibition game for the Washburn women and the K-State women. 6:30 tip-off. You want to hear Brendan's call, it's over on our sister station, Country 106.9, with pregame at 6:15. If you'd like to hear the K-State broadcast, right here on 580 WIBW with a 6 o'clock pregame. We'll be giving way to that.
I have nothing but nice things to say about Wyatt Thompson. However, if you listen to Wyatt over me, I will come to your house and scream at you.
I don't know that it'll be Wyatt on the call. Might be.
It'll be Matt.
Might be Matt Walters, Brian Smoller. I'm not sure.
I also have no problem with Matt or Brian or anyone else.
No,
and I have nothing but positive things to say about literally everyone who works at K-State. But I mean, come on.
So it's a gang of 3, and then the cast will be down to 2 in the 4 o'clock hour, and then I'm going to leave in the 5 o'clock hour because my son is getting his pictures taken with Santa Claus today, and I want to be there for that. So I will be leaving in the 5 o'clock hour, and Spencer will take you home.
Things you can say about babies that you cannot say about your 18-year-old.
Some 18-year-olds like Santa Claus.
I mean, I don't want to make fun here, but it's not even Halloween yet.
No, well, this was strategic, right? So this is a photo shoot that's kind of in demand with a really good Santa.
Okay.
And you got to schedule it when you can schedule it. And we wanted to do it before my wife went back to work.
Makes
and
sense.
we wanted to do it before daylight savings time so that we wouldn't mess up his nighttime routine if we were out of the house and got him out of whack.
Also, I imagine Santa's pretty busy in the next couple weeks.
Yeah, Santa's also very booked when you get to mid-November.
I guess that makes sense.
Yeah, he's got to run back up north, make sure to do final preparations, all that good stuff. So yes, the crew will dwindle by the end, but we'll bring you until 6 o'clock here on 580 Sports Talk. Matt Derrick, friend of the program, our Chiefs insider, tweeted earlier today. He found, according to the NFLPA salary cap report, that the Chiefs, following the moves that they've made recently, which the restructuring of Juwan Taylor and the trade addition of Joshua Uche, the Chiefs have $255,953 in available cap space, which isn't a lot. But Matt Derrick's takeaway is this, quote, Brett Veach can still figure out how to make a move, but it won't be adding anyone with a big base salary, unless, of course, they can convince the trading team to pick up a larger chunk of that salary, perhaps with a trade, perhaps. If you need to go as high as a 3rd-round draft pick, the Chiefs have 2 of those for next year because of the L'Jarius Sneed trade. You and I, Brennan, are on the same page, but we arrived at the same place in different routes. The Chiefs are treating this like a go-for-it year. Mm-hmm. And I said at the very start of the season, look, you only get one shot maybe ever to win a 3rd straight Super Bowl and do something that no one else has ever done. And whatever happens from 2025 on, this era of Chiefs football would always be remembered as the team that won 3 in a row, regardless of what happened after that. They would be the team that did something no one else has ever done. Mm-hmm. And to me, that is worth going for. That is worth selling out for, not mortgaging your entire future, but being more willing to move some picks, some future draft capital in pursuit of making the roster that much better. You believe that is what they're doing. And you have also looked at the roster and the outlook for the roster from 2025 and beyond and said, hey, things kind of thin out a little bit roster-wise after this. So not only is this a rare opportunity, this might be their best opportunity for a couple of years to go and get another Lombardi trophy.
Yeah, and I will never say that a team with Patrick Mahomes and Andy Reid and Brett Veach as your GM and as much defensive talent as the Chiefs have, they're never going to punt this season. No. They're not going to do the so-called take your medicine. These guys are leaving. Why don't we trade some of them who aren't nailed down and we'll do sort of a soft reset. Buffalo did that this year. And look, Buffalo's been good, man. And is really impressive for that organization. But I don't think the Chiefs are going to end up doing that. But I think you can also look at the roster overall and who is going to be around long-term at wide receiver? Xavier Worthy.
Rashee
Rice, when he's healthy, which great. Hollywood Brown is a free agent at the end of this year. He has done a 1-year deal. DeAndre Hopkins is only around for the end of this season. Justin Watson is done after this season, and he's not a mainstay anyway. Sky Moore, he going to suddenly step up? Are we suddenly going to see the Justin Ross emergence next year? No. Nico Remigio, is he real or is he a myth? We don't really know in the regular season at this point. So all of that considered, you got to figure out what you're doing with your pass catchers. Travis Kelce is not going to get younger. Now, they've already kind of protected that. They re-signed Noah Gray to the new extension. They drafted Jared Wiley. They're okay in that position. But the offensive line, You don't know what's going on at left tackle. Joe Tooney is not getting any younger. You've got to figure out what you're going to do with Trey Smith. You're already paying Juwan Taylor, so you've got the question there at right guard. Defensively, pretty locked down. Most of your studs are locked down. You got to figure out a deal with Nick Bolton.
Yeah.
Because conversation aside, should they do it? I do believe they will do it. So you've got to get that money figured out. Tranquil signed on for multiple years. You've got Chanel on his deal. You've got some things to figure out. So I do feel like going forward, you may end up in a season where you don't make as many bold moves next offseason because hey, we've sort of got to figure out what the next long-term window for this team is and how many of the current core pieces will be a part of that next core. Because, truthfully, this championship team is not going to be Kelsey and Jones and Mahomes as your main core forever. It's just not. So who that is on the roster now is going to be part of that? Mahomes, Trent McDuffie. Trent McDuffie is going to get so much money. He is going to get paid so much money when he is eventually eligible for an extension at the end of this season, actually. He'll be eligible for an extension. Is Rashee Rice part of that? I think so. I think Rashee Rice is really good. Is George Karlaftis part of that? I think George is a really good player. Is George Karlaftis near top of market value good as a player? That's something you've got to consider if you're the Chiefs. I think there are a lot of decisions they've got to make this offseason that are going to kind of influence what happens in the next 10 years of Patrick Mahomes' career, in the next 10 years of Chiefs football. So, knowing that you've got to make those decisions between January and the end of March, why not say, screw it, let's just add a bunch of Band-Aids right now. Let's just add little boosters right now to go win, because everything is easier when you go and freaking win it.
Yeah.
And it's a lot harder to make those decisions if you had a heartbreaking loss in the championship game or God forbid, an upset in the divisional round. And then, now these decisions are a lot more difficult. You go win, everyone feels better about every decision you make.
Yeah. And again, you've made that history and you're untouchable. And it's not that nothing you do after that matters, but you've written your legacy. You've written the epitaph that will matter for this era of Chiefs football. If you go out, you get a third.
Yeah. And to Brennan's point about the guys you want to bring back, you're going to want to bring all these guys back, but you're not going to be able to bring everyone back. So you might as well go back and go out and chase as many championships as you can while you have the guys you have on your current roster.
Agree.
Yeah,
totally agree.
You have to maximize your window.
Yeah.
That's what we talk about. And I don't believe in windows necessarily in the NFL. I think your window is, do you have the quarterback or not? At the end of the day, that is your competitive window. Do you have the quarterback or not?
Yeah.
But there are moments where it's going to be easier because you have better rosters around your quarterback. And this is one of those times, no doubt, for the Chiefs. We'll take a quick break. When we come back, the most depressing Patrick Mahomes stat I can think of. That's coming up on 580 Sports Talk. Usually when we talk about Patrick Mahomes and where he appears on graphs with other quarterbacks, with his peers, he's the one who breaks the graph. He's top right on those X and Y axis graphs. He's not on this new one that we saw today. This is quarterback deep balls in 2024. Percentage of attempts and grade from Pro Football Focus on deep balls. Now, Mahomes has a below average grade on the deep ball this year, still above like a positive grade, but below average, below guys like Jacoby Brissett and Justin Fields and Trevor Lawrence and Derek Carr and Anthony Richardson, and Drake May has the highest grade on deep balls so far in his short career.
Hell yeah.
So it gives you an idea, like grade on deep balls, obviously not like the best way to evaluate a quarterback. There's a lot more to it than being able to sling it. This is the part that made me sad. Deep attempts, percentage of your pass attempts that are deep balls. Anthony Richardson leads the league. That's all he does. Let it rip. Jordan Love is second in the league.
The Packers are either throwing a bubble screen or chucking it.
Then Joe Flacco, because again, Colts.
The Elite Dragon.
Derek Carr, fourth in the league. That surprised me.
See, I believe Derek Carr loves to throw it. He just needs 8 seconds in the pocket to do it.
Trevor Lawrence, fifth.
Yeah.
Sam Darnold, sixth.
Okay.
Josh Allen, seventh.
Sure.
That gets kind of muddled. Caleb Williams, Dak Prescott. Bo Nix a lot higher than I think anybody anticipated.
Oh, yeah.
Again, not a measure of talent here. Let's not pretend that it is. But it's just a percentage of how often in the offense are you getting to let that big dog eat on a deep ball. Guys, Patrick Mahomes is dead last in the league. Dead last in the league in deep pass attempts. Now, this is, again, not a measure of quarterback quality. You know who's third from last? C.J. Stroud. And he's got, like, dudes on dudes at wide receiver. Well, he did before Nico Collins and now Stephon Diggs got hurt.
Oh, yeah, but Brendan and I have had this conversation. I own him in fantasy football.
Okay.
And he's just not putting up he doesn't have the air yardage that you would think he would. The touchdowns that you would think he would this year.
Then this stat would track. He's not throwing the ball deep very often. Patrick Mahomes is throwing the fewest deep balls as a percentage of his total attempts of anybody in the league. And look, I know what the Chiefs are doing on offense works. I know that Mahomes is capable of putting up great numbers, throwing short and intermediate passes. We've seen it. We saw it last week. Like, just one more a game to Xavier Worthy on a 9 route, please. Just one more per game. I'm begging you, Andy Reid. I'm begging you, Matt Nagy. Let it loose, because it's going to be there. I don't know what you have to do to get Xavier Worthy open, because he's a kind of slight of build still as a rookie, and it's tough for him to get clean releases. But when he does, no one can stay with him. And now you've got DeAndre Hopkins, who he's not the burner he used to be, but he can win a one-on-one on a deep ball. Bring it back. Bring the deep ball back, please. Please don't put Patrick Mahomes in the same discussions as Bryce Young and Deshaun Watson and Mason Rudolph, because that's the company he's keeping on this graph. And that feels wrong.
Yeah, it's disgusting. It's absolutely vile. Horrible. Truly, truly horrible. So I don't know that it's going to change. I hope it does. Like, theoretically, you've got a super speedster in Worthy. You've got a jump ball guy in DeAndre Hopkins. You should let it rip. I just don't trust that this offense is actually going to, which is sad. It's very disappointing.
Yeah, it just, man, I just can't believe that's where we're seeing a guy with Mahomes' arm talent and ability. And I don't think that would be the case if Hollywood Brown had been healthy. I really don't. I think you'd have a bit more field stretching ability. But look, it's there. It's on this roster. And eventually, with the success the Chiefs are having on the ground, you're going to start to see those safeties creep just a little closer to the line of scrimmage. And maybe that's the point at which we unleash the dragon.
Yeah.
I really want to see it. I hate seeing Patrick Mahomes with the fewest deep attempts in the NFL. That feels morally and spiritually wrong.
Yeah.
We'll take a break, come back, wrap up the hour with One Gotta Go on 580 Sports Talk. One got to go to wrap up the 3 o'clock hour here on 580 Sports Talk. Brendan, what do you got for us today?
All right, we're talking potatoes.
Okay.
One style of potato has got to go. I will give you baked. I will give you mashed. I will give you French fries. I will give you hash browns.
One of those
One's
got to
go.
Mashed potatoes.
Wow, that's the worst take you've ever given. No, I'm just kidding. Why mashed potatoes? They're so good.
Actually, can I reverse that?
Yeah.
I would rather go with the baked potato.
Bullying works.
Wait, you're getting rid of the baked potato? What?
Yeah. Give me hash browns, French fries, and mashed potatoes.
Wow.
Because there's
I'm
just so much
dumbfounded.
I don't eat. I'm some people out there might eat their potato skin, but you're wasting.
That's where you get all the nutrients.
I don't eat it. Do you eat it?
Sometimes. Depends on the potato.
I eat the whole damn thing. I will eat my wife's potato skins if she doesn't finish. Give me all the skins.
The guts are good enough for me. Yeah, baked potatoes rock. I had one Monday night at Hog Wild.
Oh, man. I love it.
I think they're getting new potatoes over there. They're gigantic. I would say I'd go hash browns, I guess.
I'm done with French fries.
You're done with them?
Well, no, I'm done. I mean, I'll eat them, but I'm dumping them.
Okay.
No,
why?
I love hash browns. Hash browns, delicious. Baked potatoes, probably my favorite. Mashed potatoes you can eat with anything. They go with every meal. Like, oh, you want a burger? Mashed potatoes? Sure.
Yeah,
steak,
that's why.
Mashed potatoes? Absolutely.
That's why I switched mine.
I still suck at making mashed potatoes. I'm still struggling. I gotta get them a little smoother. Still a little lumpy. It's a process.
I'm really good at making them. I learned from my friend Betty Crocker.
Talking hoops to the 4 o'clock hour. Tim Fitzgerald will join us as well for the Wildcat Wrap-up. Stay with us. Hour number 2, 580 Sports Talk next. Let's get it. Hour number 2 of 580 Sports Talk on this Wednesday afternoon. Thanks so much for being with us. Dan Lucero, Brendan Dworzinski, Spencer Dupuis. Brendan stepped out for a moment. I think he's coming back. We'll have him back, I think, in a moment.
Yeah, I thought he was going to be here through the first segment.
That's what he told me. So if he changed his plan, he didn't inform me. So I'm sure Brendan will be back in just a moment. But we got a jam-packed second hour of the show. Glad you're along for the ride on 580 WIBW, FM 104.9, online at 580WIBW.com, and, of course, a special hello to those of you watching our video stream. You can catch us on Facebook, WIBW News, and you can watch us on our YouTube channel, 580 Sports Talk. We appreciate all of you rocking with us on this Wednesday. Brendan is back. So the gang's all here, at least for one more segment. Then you're heading to Bramlage Coliseum for K-State versus Washburn women's basketball.
Yep.
You'll hear the broadcast over on Country 106.9, home for Ichabod Athletics. 6:15 pregame, 6:30 tip from the Octagon. You'll hear the K-State broadcast here on 580 WIBW.
Real ball tonight. Both teams' best player, their posts, their centers. Bari Widada for Washburn, and of course, Ayoka Lee for K-State. Excited for that one.
Yeah, it's a fascinating matchup. I want to see how Bari fares against the All-American in the middle for the Kansas State Wildcats. That should be fun to see. Lot of interesting things to watch. Obviously, lot of hype for this K-State women's basketball season. We are efforting Jeff Mitty, the head basketball coach for the K-State women, and expect to have him join us on the program Friday. So looking forward to bringing that interview to you ahead of their season opener Monday morning. Their first game this season is Monday morning, their first real game.
That's wild, man.
What?
Yeah.
Would
I lie to y'all? I'm not.
No, I've seen the schedule with my own eyes.
Is it Kids Day at wherever? Are they playing at Bramlage?
Yeah, they're playing at home.
Is it Kids Day?
I can't imagine. So I wonder, are they doing a 24-hour hoops kind of thing?
I don't have any idea. All I know is it is an 11 a.m. tip-off. It is business and basketball / education day.
Okay. So it is Kids Day,
I guess so.
Sure.
The other argument you could make for it is, like, are a lot of people going to be able to watch the game because, like, they're at work? No, that's going to be difficult, or at school or whatever for some people. Yes, that will be difficult. But you know what else is not happening at that time? Anything else?
Yeah.
If you want a distraction on your lunch break, if you want to not, have one screen of work and one screen of something else in your office, that's something else is going to be K-State women's basketball.
So that's coming up tonight. Yeah, we're getting to a season where every night we're throwing to some kind of sporting event, whether it's K-State, whether it's the Chiefs, whether it's high school stuff. We're getting to that time of year here on 580 WIBW.
So are we going to be airing that game on
Yes,
Monday?
Of course.
There we go.
Yeah, absolutely. 100%.
We're just letting everybody know.
That's right.
We will have that random one-off morning game.
We will have K-State basketball in the morning, K-State women's basketball, and Chiefs Buccaneers at night on Monday.
Go ahead. I had a joke lined up, and I was going to get myself in a lot of trouble with our regular 11 o'clock programming on 580. So okay. I'll just let it go from there.
All right. That's probably for the best. Anyhow, we appreciate you interacting with the show today. You can hit us up in the YouTube live chat. If you are watching on our YouTube channel, 580 Sports Talk, you can also text the program. The Top City Metal Supply text line, 785-272-9429 is the number. That is 785-272-9429. No more wasting money on metal pieces that leave you with unnecessary leftovers. Top City Metal Supply will cut exact lengths of aluminum, steel, and stainless steel, tailored to your project's specifications. Start optimizing your budget with Top City Metal Supply on South Topeka Boulevard, just north of Forbes Field. Still to come this hour of the program, Tim Fitzgerald's going to join us for the Wildcat Wrap-up. We'll have lots to talk about with Fitz. We'll discuss K-State's 16th consecutive win in the Sunflower Showdown. Look ahead to their game at Houston on Saturday. Can the Wildcats avoid a trap game before their final bye week of the season? We'll also talk about K-State's exhibition men's basketball game from last night. They took on Fort Hays State, earned the 74-60 victory. So we'll get Fitz's thoughts on all of that at the bottom of this hour. We also have our October semifinals on What Is Wrong With You. 5 outstanding stories. I genuinely believe that any one of these stories would be a worthy monthly champion. We don't always get there in a month. Then there may be a clear favorite, There's one our listeners are particularly fond of. But let's not judge until we meet the whole field or reintroduce ourselves to the whole field again and pick our championship 2, our final 2 for tomorrow. Some great stories.
I think it's funny. There are 2 NFL ties in this, and there's 2 genitalia ties in this.
Normal day on 580
Yes, we have
Talk.
football stories. We have wiener jokes. Yeah, that's what is wrong with you in a nutshell. That is for sure. So that is all coming up. We still got sports headlines in the 5 o'clock hour, and in the 5 o'clock hour, this week's K-State football player profile. I spoke earlier this week with redshirt freshman tight end Will Anciaux, the Cape and Mount Carmel Crusader, Wichita. He joined me for a chat. Really enjoyed talking to Will, and I know you'll enjoy the conversation as well when we play that for you in the 5 o'clock hour. But let's start with some hoops, shall we? KU Washburn played last night. K-State, Fort Hays State played last night. So it was our first chance to see K-State on the floor. It was our first chance to see Washburn. We did see KU in the charity exhibition against Arkansas on Saturday. So this was our second look, I guess, at Kansas, our second opportunity to see the Jayhawks, although certainly not seeing them in their entirety with no Hunter Dickinson out there last night. We can start with the Jayhawks because it was their second exhibition and they kind of got rolled in Fayetteville. There was going to be no sleepwalking through the Washburn game for this group of Jayhawks. And they showed it right off the rip that Bill Self expected 40 hard minutes from his team. And largely, I believe that's what Bill Self got.
I think the rotations were better for KU in the game. I think the personnel were by default going to end up being better because Rylan Griffin was out there. And we'll get to more on Rylan in a second. But yeah, KU clearly took some offense to that. And that's what happens with good teams, right?
Right.
You lose, you get embarrassed, you get told, hey, you're not good enough. Hey, Arkansas, John Calipari, they're better than you. They proved it out there. I'm sure they heard some version of that throughout the day, or throughout the week after that game last Friday up until the game last night. So I'm sure their pride was dinged a little bit, and I think it was important for those guys to see themselves look like the team that is rightfully number one in the country. I was very impressed by a number of individuals. I will admit I was glad that Hunter Dickinson didn't play. One, because hopefully he'll be even healthier come the season opener, the regular season opener. Two, Washburn had some troubles getting into the lane anyway. And with Hunter in there, I think that would have been even more difficult.
They don't have anybody 7'2".
No, and very few teams do. And Hunter is a legit 7'2". I have some opinions on some of the listed heights for certain players in yesterday's game. For example, if David Coit is 5'11", then I'm 6'9". Okay, I'm just going to tell you that right now, man. That dude is not. And who cares? If you can ball, who cares?
Yeah.
So what?
He's going to shoot 40% from three. Nobody's going to care how big that kid is.
I just know I looked down at my notes and I said, I really wrote this dude was 5'11". Am I sure about that? But no, I think it was a better grouping in terms of who was on the floor at what time. We still saw entirely too much Zach Clements, but it's an exhibition.
He was the backup 5.
And
Flory Badunga was the starting center, and that meant Clements was the backup 5 in this scenario.
Yeah.
Like, probably for the better part of the season is going to be Hunter Dickinson and then KJ Adams getting some minutes at the 5 and some spare minutes at the 5 for Badunga, who I really came away from fairly impressed by. Yeah, he's the biggest guy on the floor. So he could do things by virtue of just being the biggest guy on the floor. And there is a long way for him to go just in terms of the skill set. It's very raw feeling from him. And I felt like he was more equipped to help offensively than Uday was. That's not to say they're going to run plays for Badunga or anything, but a rim runner and an alley-oop finisher within the offense. And so they can run some stuff that involve him finishing above the rim. And then over on the defensive side, he might not be the active hands out on the perimeter. Like Uday was good on the perimeter, which was a big surprise, but he'll help at rim protecting. And that's something that KU kind of lacked last year.
And I think Flory's got more bounce than Uday.
Yes, like I would agree. He's a little more athletic. Yeah. Like
you might ask, like, okay, well, how much jump do you need when you're that tall? Well, it doesn't hurt. It's a good thing. I mean, he can get up And I thought the game looked a lot slower for him in a good way. I didn't think he looked slower. I think it looked like the game itself was slower. Now, granted, it was. You're comparing, a really good Division II team to Arkansas, which has a bunch of dudes who are like Olympic quality athletes. I'm being hyperbolic, but you know what I mean. Obviously, it's going to be a little bit slower, but that's what you're hoping for during non-conference play with Flory, right? And like against North Carolina, against Duke, would not be surprised if things can get ugly for Flory. And
there will be those games where it goes too fast.
And frankly, he might not see the floor, honestly. There might be some of these games where we can't play him. It's just too fast.
It might depend on size. Like if you're seeing a team that goes small, then they'll probably be content with backup center minutes for KJ Adams.
But if I am, from what I understand, and this is reporting from guys like Michael Swain and just from hearing it elsewhere, my understanding is Flory and his family and his people know development process. Like the expectation is not that Flory's one and done. The expectation is he's got all the tools to be great. It's just going to take a little while. Yeah. And that's totally fine. And it'll take a while this season. He's not going to be great right away, but I thought he was much better against Washburn than against Arkansas. I already mentioned Rylan Griffin. Dude, he's going to be so good. His jump shot is so pure. It's that quick release. He's a true catch and shoot guy. I know KU had Grady Dick, and that was really his standout thing was his shooting ability. Griffin, I think, comes in having a little bit more. Now, by the end of Grady's one season, he had a very deep bag offensively. It didn't just have to be from the three-point arc. I think Griffin comes in a little bit more ready-made, and he should. He started for a Final Four team a year ago.
Yeah.
His shooting touch is great, though. I think he is going to be a stud. I was making fun of Diggy Coit's height a minute ago. He was really good. I don't think you're going to see a lot of 5 of 10 from 3 19-point games from him, to be completely honest.
Last night was a Diggy party, and I don't know how many Diggy parties there are going to be.
But yeah, I thought all of them were impressive. Game went about the way I thought. The one concern, and it might just be, it is what it is. I think for KU this year, if AJ Storr plays his best every single game, KU's winning the national championship because he might be the best offensive player in the country in this system if he plays his best every game. The problem is I don't know that you're going to get that best all that often. He's so skilled offensively, but he's not a three-point shooter, and he has taken too many of them so far. You worry about the defense. You worry about even the rebounding energy. That is my big concern because if he's great, KU can be the best team in the country. Like, clearly, I think. If he's not, I'm not saying KU can't win a title or can't be the best team in the country, but you're going to have to ask more of Rylan Griffin. You're going to have to ask more of Zeke Mayo. You'll have to ask more of David Coit. Some of these other scoring options, I know they play different positions, but I think that's the area where if he's great, KU will certainly be great. If he's not, if he plays these kind of empty calorie minutes he's played in these first 2 games, I don't feel quite as good. He didn't start the second half yesterday.
Yeah.
Rylan Griffin started the second half after Storr started the game.
Man, that felt intentional. These are games where coaches can send a little bit of a message, and Jerome Tang did. We'll get to that in just a little bit with regard to K-State.
And I'm not trying to critique AJ. Like, we know what AJ Storr is. He's a junior in college. We've seen him at St. John's. We saw him at Wisconsin. We know what he is. He's got as much offensive skill as anybody on this team, more so than anybody on this team. Except maybe Hunter.
But it's Division I and everybody can score in their own way, right? You have to do the other
find
stuff.
Another way to affect the game, and he can be all Big 12. If he doesn't, it's going to be a concern.
I will say it was good to see the 3-ball start to fall yesterday.
For
a team that didn't shoot very well at all from 3, they definitely knew what they needed to attack in the portal, and they did it.
No, I agree with you completely. I don't know if you saw this on Twitter today, either of you. Evan Miyakawa, evanmiya.com, he does college basketball analytics. Interesting stuff. Has kind of a different approach than Ken Palm and other places. He had his list of expected 3-point shooting numbers per team. And if you had over, I think it was like 40%, 39%, whatever, over that expectation, he ranked how many teams have 3 of those guys? How many have 4? How many have 5? Only like 15 teams in the country had 3 or more. One of them was Kansas. Can you guess who the 3 were who had that high of an expected 3-point percentage? 2 of them you can probably guess pretty easily.
Mayo.
Zeke Mayo is one of them.
Rylan Griffin.
Griffin. The other one was DeJuan Harris, which, look, DeJuan can hit the three.
Yeah, he makes shots.
He's actually pretty good at it. The problem is he will not take it if there's a hand in his face.
Yeah.
Which kind of skews that stat.
Not his job to do it.
No, but it shouldn't be.
Yeah.
That's maybe the most impressive thing for the KU offense. I know we have to get to K-State. I'm sorry for eating up a lot of time. But DeJuan Harris had 4 points yesterday. He took 4 shots. There will be games where he has to score because he has the ball in his hand all the time and he sets up the offense. But there are games, if Storr and Mayo and Griffin and certainly Dickinson are scoring, I'm fine with DeJuan Harris taking 4 shots. Move the ball, play good defense, score at the end of the shot clock when no one else has the ball. That's more than enough from DeJuan Harris for me, as long as the other guys are contributing. And that was big because no one else scored against Arkansas. Yeah. He had to do everything. I don't ever want to see him take 17 shots in a game.
No, that old stat, like what KU's record is when he scores double-digit points, like,
we need to evolve beyond that.
Yes, I think so. I hope that we're not still talking about that stat. We shouldn't be. As many scorers and shooters should be on this year's KU team. As for K-State, they beat Fort Hays State last night, 74-60. Game was never in doubt. Like, it was a arm's length kind of 14-point win. K-State did not shoot it particularly well from 3. Brendan Housen made 5 of him. There's never been a greener green light than the one Brendan Housen has. My goodness. 5 of 13 for the field, and they were all from 3. And you know what? Yeah, I'm okay with that. Me. Yeah, they need somebody to take and make 3-pointers at volume. And Housen looks like he's going to be that guy. I mentioned earlier, you can send a message by who you play and who you don't, and when you play and when you don't in an exhibition game. Doug McDaniel did not start at point guard for Kansas State. And it was very pointed that Jerome Tang started C.J. Jones and said after the game, C.J. Jones has been our best point guard in practice. So why wouldn't he start, essentially? He's had our best assist-to-turnover ratio in practice. Doug McDaniel is still learning to not let the ball not going in the basket affect his game on both ends. And I think that's a pretty powerful message sent to Doug McDaniel, who didn't score a lot last night. And C.J. Jones didn't either, but facilitated the offense fairly well. I would be surprised if it's not Doug McDaniel starting against, I think it's New Orleans that they open with on Tuesday, and every game moving forward. That felt like a very obvious way for Jerome Tang to send a message about a very highly regarded transfer out of the Big Ten school that, look, I don't care that you're from the Big Ten, and C.J. Jones was at, where was he? Bakersfield?
No.
No, that's Max Jones.
Wasn't he at UIC?
Yes. C.J. Jones was at UIC.
Yeah, Illinois, Chicago.
Yeah. I could not keep up with the Joneses. That was very pointed, I thought, from Jerome Tang. The player that did stand out in a positive way was Coleman Hawkins. And that was such an adult in the room performance from Coleman Hawkins. Like, that's exactly what they want from him. 13, 5, and 6 with only 1 turnover. If they get that from him every night, they will be totally satisfied because that's what they want him to do. Facilitate, rebound, shoot when the shots are there. Just make sure everybody is organized. Like, it was very obvious that Coleman Hawkins is sort of like the glue already for this team. And I think they'll be totally fine with that. He doesn't need to be a 20-a-game guy. He doesn't need to be the top scorer every single night. And I think he knows that. And I think this is a role that will be perfect for him to play.
I'm trying to remember when Bill Self did this at KU. He started a walk-on, I think, in an exhibition game, and it was very clearly to send a message to someone. K-State is going to be at its best if Doug McDaniel is really good. We talked about that yesterday. That I think the guy with the most pressure on him is Doug McDaniel, and I kind of think that decision sort of indicates that. Like, hey, you're not here to just be part of the good vibes team, man. Like, you're here to help us go win a lot and make it to the NCAA tournament.
And if you're not the best version of yourself, we're not going to.
And look, I'm not going to come up like that, but I mean, this indicates to me, at least, that there is a little bit of focus that needs to be worked on with him. And if K-State gets that, but it does make me wonder, like, how long does it take to get that? And maybe this is all you need. Maybe this sends a clear and direct message. I will just tell, and I'm sorry, I apologize for this. They're playing the Little Sisters of the Poor for 12 games before conference play starts.
Yes, it is not. It is not the kind of non-conference schedule that Kansas is playing.
So, like, you can probably get by with C.J. Jones playing starter minutes. If they were starting with like 3 teams from Tobacco Road, though, I would not want CJ Jones out there starting. I like CJ Jones as your 8th man. Like
Sure.
I think that's a nice piece to have on the bench. That cannot be your one.
We also didn't see Max Jones. He was held out. He's got a bit of a toe injury. Jerome Tang didn't sound too concerned with that. I would expect we'd see him when the rubber starts to meet the road. But yeah, you shouldn't need him for the bulk of this non-conference schedule, to be frank. Maybe LSU at the earliest when they come to Bramlage on the 14th of November. Maybe that's the earliest we see Max Jones. The big man rotation, Ugonna and Anciaux got about a dozen minutes. Baye Fall only played 3. I feel like that's pretty indicative that Baye Fall's got a long way to go. And might be a break glass in case of emergency use kind of player in the low post, where Anciaux is your guy you bring in for defense. But Jerome Tangs like to roll 3 bigs. Like that's very obvious. They like to roll 3, and all 3 of them have kind of defined roles. David Gasson had another, again, adult in the room kind of performance for David Gasson. Like late in the game, it's like a 12, 14-point game where it never feels like K-State's going to lose, but also it's like, why is this as close as it is? And it's Gasson with offensive rebounds, Gasson with a bucket, Gasson getting to the free throw line, Gasson rebounding on the offensive and defensive ends. Like, just the veteran guys being mature players who give you what you need every night. You know what you can expect from them. K-State didn't get that from the vets last year. Like, you did not know what you were going to get on a night in, night out basis, frankly, from Arthur Kaluma. You did not know. But if you know
what Rodney Terry player,
but if you know what you're going to get from Coleman Hawkins, and he's content with what he's being asked to give this team, I think that's the guy you can make it all work around. I really do. I think that highly of him as a player, and I think as somebody who's really accepted the responsibility of, but let's be frank, hey, they're giving me all this NIL money to be
so you got to go be the dude.
Yeah, to be the guy. But being the dude for me looks different than being the dude for a guy who's going to score 25 a game.
Sure.
And so I think we saw kind of what that's going to look like in an ideal world. Like, if he averaged 13, 5, and 6, perfect.
Yeah, no one should. Look, here's the thing. If you are expecting Coleman Hawkins to be a 20 and 10 guy or a 20 and 8 guy, whatever, you just don't really know what Coleman Hawkins is.
Yeah,
that's not the player he's going to be.
Right.
But he does affect the game in a lot of ways. And you're exactly right, Dan. If you get a stat stuffing average like that, you've got to feel pretty good about your chances if you're Kansas State. He's not a glue guy, but he's the glue that kind of holds the whole operation together, if that makes sense.
We got to take a break. Brendan's got to get to Bramlage for Washburn and K-State women's basketball tonight. Safe travels, partner.
I will do my best. Hopefully it doesn't rain too much. If you're going to the game, come say hi.
Catch him on Country 106.9. Pregame at 6:15. Tip-off from Bramlage at 6:30. Spencer and I have you for a little bit here, including our What Is Wrong With You October semifinals. Those are next on 580 Sports Talk. It's What Is Wrong With You? It's the penultimate day of a month, and you know what that means. It's time for the semifinals for the month of October on What Is Wrong With You. We have our weekly champions. We will narrow it down to 2 of them of the 5 that we had this month, and tomorrow we will crown our monthly What Is Wrong With You champion. We start with our play-in game, our current weekly champion, the winner of this short week, the Penis Picasso, or when I saw our friend Trenton Craxner last night at the KU Washburn game, the genitalia Van Gogh is what he called it. The folks own a tattoo parlor in Colorado Springs. They don't like that an apartment complex built a parking garage next to them, and they're towing away all of their clients. So they painted a bunch of penises on the very artistic, but penises all the same on the roof of the parking garage. They take on Rashee Rice's mom. Remember this short week winner from the start of the year? Rashee Rice's mom accused of swiping a package containing Chapel Roan records from her neighbor's porch and doing so while wearing a custom Mama Rice Chiefs jersey. That's a tough one to pick, to be honest with you. Who you got?
I don't know. Like this could be like, I feel like this could be like your year's end. Like
I'm telling you,
set of monthly winners.
I'm telling you, these are good enough to be finals. I'm leaning toward Rashee Rice's mom.
Yeah, because like you're in the spotlight.
When you do cry, and it was the same day her son blew out his knee against the Chargers. It was the same day that happened. And she felt like, some people need retail therapy. Apparently she needed theft therapy. So Rashee Rice's mom advances to take on another NFL-themed story. Stark Raven Mad, John Callis, the Ravens fan who was captured on tape sucker-punching Commanders fans in downtown Baltimore after the Ravens-Commanders game. Obviously, bad guy.
He has a very bad past as well.
Yes, very bad past. Just a bad guy. Rashee Rice's mom versus Stark Raven Mad. I'm going to have to lean towards Rashee Rice's mom here because I think, again, it's the idea of doing crime while being incredibly easy to identify.
I think and it's the fact that like it literally says Mama Rice. Like,
yes, it's not just the Rashee Rice jersey, right? It says on the back of the jersey, Mama Rice. Like they're not selling those. You can't go buy that on Fanatics. That's not something you can point and do 2-click purchase on Fanatics. You got to get that special made. And I don't know who's getting a Mama Rice jersey special made.
Except for
Mama Rice.
Yeah.
So Rashee Rice's mom is one semifinalist. Our other semifinal matchup. Have you seen my wieners? The Georgia nursing home where an argument over who stole Vienna sausages ended with one man getting stabbed. Happened on Tybee Island in Georgia. There was an argument. There were some missing sausages. It got physical, and one person pulled out a knife and stabbed the other person. It was unclear if the sausages were indeed stolen at all. So have you seen my wieners taking on German Cocaine Pizza, the pizzeria in Dusseldorf, who had a special on their menu, item number 40, a pizza with a side of that white, a pizza with a side of blow. And when the pizzeria owner was caught doing it and arrested, after he was released, started doing it again. And it led to a large-scale drug bust in Western Germany.
Yeah, I think that guy wins the...
Yeah. As good as Have You Seen My Wieners is, German Cocaine Pizza is German Cocaine Pizza.
We do know something, in fact, happened there. We don't know, in fact, what if there was even Vienna sausages.
This is true. Yeah, it could have just been a stabbing for stabbing's sake. But no, this guy, was running drugs out of his pizzeria, and all you had to do was order the number 40, and you got a side of drugs. So, Rashee Rice's mom and German Cocaine Pizza will be our championship matchup on What Is Wrong With You tomorrow. We'll take a break. Tim Fitzgerald of GoPowerCat.com joins us next for the Wildcat Wrap-up on 580 Sports Talk. We are joined on the Fleming Place Wine and Spirits Hotline by the great Tim Fitzgerald, publisher at GoPowerCat.com, part of the 24/7 Sports Network. We call it the Wildcat Wrap-up. We do it every Wednesday at this time here on 580 Sports Talk. Check out Fitz and his outstanding staff's coverage of K-State athletics at GoPowerCat.com and find him on Twitter at Life of Fitz. Fitz, Sweet 16 in the Sunflower Showdown football rivalry. And, boy, that one didn't come easy. But at the end of the day, K-State made one more play than Kansas. And that's kind of been the story of their season, much like Kansas's season has been about finding ways to lose. K-State's season has been about finding ways to win, and they found a way.
You know, that little thing, having the ability to win close games or screw up close games, decides the difference between being a good football team and a bad football team. We just saw two teams that I think are pretty comparable in talent and coaching, but one team knows how to close out, even when they haven't played well, and one team absolutely can't close out, even if they are playing well. And it's just been painful to watch what KU goes through, but it was almost predictable. Yeah, they played pretty good football, but when it came time to close the sale, they farted at the table, and everyone got up and left. And K-State found a way to win, and that's just what K-State's got to do, is continue that process, because you look at most teams that succeed, make it to conference championships, and a lot of those teams have a lot of really close wins.
It wasn't the crispest game for K-State on both sides of the ball, but defensively, they rose up in that fourth quarter. They got the stops they needed to get. One, to get the ball back with 3.5 minutes left and set up Chris Tennant for the go-ahead field goal. And one, of course, to stop KU, get them off the field and be able to kneel out the clock and win. What impressed you most about the adjustments that K-State made down the stretch defensively to be able to win that game?
They finally figured it out. It was like a Rubik's Cube. They kept twisting it and turning it, and finally they found a combination that seemed to work, and that was really intense pressure, bringing everyone and that you could that wasn't in man-to-man coverage of receivers, and that worked because this was a point of frustration for all of us who had studied KU and looked at what happens when Jalen Daniels is under pressure, when he's made to move around. His completion percentage just plummets, and they just didn't do that. They let him stay in the pocket. His line did a great job covering up, more traditional pass rushes, and offensively they just found enough that was working. They finally got the run game loosened up by coming off tackle a little bit, and they got a few runs that happened. But even the KU defense, after K-State got the ball back, did a pretty good job bowing up, but they ended up giving up just enough yardage to get it within Chris Tennant's leg, who then drilled it.
Speaking of Chris Tennant, he was a bit of a concern last year at times, and that might be putting it mildly. I know he took a lot of criticism from fans. He had some missed kicks that really stood out. He had a bad miss in the Texas game. He redeemed himself, tied that game, sent it to overtime, but had a bad miss in the Texas game. And going into this year, there was a question about how much confidence K-State had in their kicker. Well, there's no question anymore. Chris Kleiman believes in his guy, and now he's got a game-winning kick in the Sunflower Showdown to his credit. Cool moment and a cool full-circle moment, I would imagine, for him.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I think he proved something to doubters and proved something to himself, that he can go out there in a really high-pressure situation and deliver. That's not easy. And he made it look easy by putting that right down the middle. Didn't have a ton of extra range on it. And I think it's interesting that now that they've taken kickoff duties off his plate, he seems to be really confident and not distracted, and apparently fresh. They were afraid that the offense would score 4 touchdowns a game and had 4 kickoffs, in which you're really trying to unwind on the ball. So I think they found a formula for Chris Tennant that actually really works for him and paid off on Saturday.
Tim Fitzgerald of GoPowerCat.com is our guest on the Fleming Place Wine and Spirits Hotline. This is the Wildcat Wrap-up on 580 Sports Talk. After some emotional games, 2 road games in a row in tough environments, and then the Sunflower Showdown, K-State now goes to play Houston, one of the worst teams in the Big 12. Obviously, Willie Fritz is a coach who's upset K-State in recent vintage, did so at K-State when he was head coach at Tulane a couple years back. How does this year's version of this Wildcats team keep this from turning into a trap game?
First, it's a good matchup for K-State. K-State's a really efficient running team, and Houston hasn't really stopped the run. K-State struggled in pass coverage at times, and Houston threw the ball like 13 times its entire game against Utah last week. They really focused on the run. This is a good matchup. And unless Willie Fritz has some magic up his sleeve and a better quarterback, I don't think this is a huge threat. I think the biggest threat here is Kansas State itself. And not in the, don't look past them, that kind of thing. They look tired on Saturday. And you roll back the clock and you go, okay, well, they went to this 4-game stretch. They went to Colorado and played an after-dark game, a late-night game, came back, and then had to go to West Virginia to play another night game. And then you come home to invest a lot of emotion and energy against your rivals in another night game. And so I think they're tired. Now, the question becomes, will they be tired at Houston, or will they know that they have that week off after the Houston game and kind of take advantage of that and kind of push all their chips in for this game? I know this. K-State Brian Wallace told me today that Kansas State football hasn't had a 5-game winning streak since 2014. And that win gets them into the off week, that then gets them into back-to-back home games that you would think Kansas State could win those. So this is pretty important. Just get through this one, and then you get some rest.
Fitz, the top of the league, as we all predicted it would, BYU and K-State and Colorado. Those are the ranked teams in the Big 12. We all saw this coming. So obviously the Big 12 has been unpredictable in ways that we kind of expected it would be. We thought it would be hard to predict. At the same time, 4 of the 5 teams that were ranked in the preseason top 25, not only not ranked now, but it's going to be hard for Kansas, Oklahoma State, Utah, and Arizona to make bowls at this point in their seasons. Is that good or bad for the perception of the Big 12?
I think it's bad. I really do. I think it's giving the national media a pass to say, well, all the teams that we thought would be good are bad, so the conference is bad. Well, I don't think anyone who's seen BYU or Colorado or Iowa State play would describe them as bad, neither, for that matter, for K-State. And I think Colorado's a really good team, and they need a lot of help to get to the Big 12 championship. But at 10-2, if they keep winning and the rest of the conference keeps winning, it's going to be interesting to see where they end up in the final standings, the rankings they use, because they might sneak in. But I think Iowa State and BYU are clearly showing that they're playing at a high level and they're hard to beat. And, for K-State's credit, they're going through what turned out to be not one of the softer schedules, but an unbelievably tough schedule. I've quoted this before, but as you mentioned, there's 4 teams now that have kind of broken away and made it clear they're the 4 best, Kansas State being one of them. And they have already played BYU, they've already played Colorado, and they play Iowa State at the end of the year.
All on the road.
All on the road. All on the road. You know who BYU plays in that group of 4? K-State, Iowa State, K-State, Colorado, K-State. Those 3 teams don't play each other. Anyone. So K-State is literally running through what has turned out to be this season's gauntlet. And then you come to the next few weeks when they play at home. At the start of the season, like Arizona State and Cincinnati, let's load up and get free wins. No. I'm telling you, Scattaboo at Arizona State's going to be a problem, and Cincinnati's just playing pretty good football. They hung around at Colorado, and they will do the same in Manhattan if they can.
Tim Fitzgerald at GoPowerCat.com is our guest here on 580 Sports Talk. This is the Wildcat Wrap-up. Let's pivot, Fitz, if we can, to the hardwood. K-State took the floor for the first time. An exhibition matchup against Fort Hays State took home the win. What stood out to you the most about Jerome Tang's team in their first performance?
It's obvious that depth is going to be amazing for this team. I mean, they played without a couple guys last night, and it wasn't like they were short on talent. They got a long ways to go. Whenever I see these teams play, you got to realize these guys have been with each other since the summer. And, that's really their first, I guess they had a scrimmage with Oklahoma. Those are their first real taste of competition as a group. And as you know, you got to play well together in the Big 12. You're not going to get by on a few good players. You have to be a cohesive team that defends as a unit, plays offense as a unit, and also have guys rise up. And so that's going to be a process for Jerome Tang and his coaches to establish. But, it was a starting point, and they were good enough. They didn't lose to Fort Hays State, and I think we've all seen that happen. So that's good. Just move on. And I'm with Jerome Tang. I think these exhibition games have become silly. Just play those scrimmages or do them publicly for charity. I think these kind of games, the coaches really can't rotate and do the things they want to because the price is too high with a fan base for losing them.
We're joined by Tim Fitzgerald of GoPowerCat.com, and a guy that really showed out last night that showed that he could be the leader for this team is Coleman Hawkins. What do you think of his performance?
Yeah, he's interesting. He played most of his years at Illinois in the post. He wasn't really known for his outside shot. It didn't seem reliable. He's a great post defender. He's just a great defender. But you could see his athleticism. You could see why K-State thinks he can be a wing. He moves extremely well for a guy his size. And he will be able to guard, whether it's smaller than him or bigger than him. I think he's going to be able to handle it. But I also want to caution people that Coleman Hawkins isn't a 30-point-a-night, 20-point-a-night guy. He's going to be a little bit more up and down. But what makes his teams dangerous is they've got a lot of answers. They've got other guys that can fill it up if, maybe Coleman Hawkins or someone else is faltering. And that's really the strength of this program right now is they built incredible depth. And we'll see if it pays off through a grueling season.
And final one for me, I saw last night Max Jones. He was hurt. We talked about him last week of what he was, what the staff thought about him taking him to Kansas City for the Big 12 Media Day. But what's the update on Max Jones?
Actually, I don't know. I think he was in a boot, and I haven't got. They're not going to talk about it, but I don't think it's too serious. The trainers now use those boots for ankle sprains to keep you off of it, and it's hopeful that he'll be back, but they're really high on him, and they moved the other Jones, CJ Jones, to point guard because they've been trying to push Doug McDaniel a little bit in the right direction. So they just need to get all their parts back, and when they do, it's really going to be fun to watch.
Tim Fitzgerald covers K-State athletics at GoPowerCat.com. It is worth the subscription to be a VIP and get all the inside info on the Cats from Fitz and his staff. You can also follow Tim on Twitter at Life of Fitz and hear him every Wednesday on the Fleming Place Wine and Spirits hotline for the Wildcat Wrap-up here on 580 Sports Talk. Fitz, always a pleasure. We'll talk to you next week.
Thank you, boys. Great to hear from you.
That is Tim Fitzgerald. We'll take a break, come back, wrap up this hour of 580 Sports Talk next. 4:56 on 580 Sports Talk. Getting set to wrap up this 4 o'clock hour. Dan and Spencer with you, and it will be the two of us for a bit of the 5 o'clock hour. Then I'm going to duck out. Spencer will take you the rest of the way from there and talk about whatever it is that he wants to talk about. But before that, we got our 580 Sports Talk headlines coming up.
And for those wondering, it will not be taken over about Commanders. We have finished that conversation. We're on to the Giants.
Okay. Oh, you're on to the Giants. All right. On to the Giants. Okay. Spencer Belichick over there. All right. We'll take your word for it. But before that, like I said, we got some Sports Talk headlines to get to, a little playoff roundup in there as the World Series continues after the Yankees won last night. We also got our K-State player profile for the week. Earlier this week, I had a chance to speak with the Wichitan, former Cape and Mount Carmel star and current redshirt freshman tight end for the Wildcats, Will Anciaux. Really enjoyed the conversation with Will. Really enjoyed getting to talk to him. Did not sound like I was talking to a redshirt freshman. Let me tell you that right now. Very, very polished, very fun interview, very fun to talk to. I know you're going to enjoy that, so stay tuned for that as we come back for one more hour of 580 Sports Talk on WIBW. Let's get it. Final hour of 580 Sports Talk on this Wednesday afternoon. Thank you for spending part of your day with us here on 580 WIBW, FM 104.9, online at 580WIBW.com. And thanks for those who are watching either today or eventually on the archive on our YouTube channel. 580 Sports Talk is the name of that channel. You can also see us on Facebook, WIBW News. Dan Lucero, Spencer Dupuis with you for this final hour. Brendan Wrzinski is en route to Manhattan, where tonight the Washburn women's basketball team plays exhibition action against the 13th ranked team in the country in Division I, the Kansas State Wildcats. That game tips off at Bramlage at 6:30 tonight. Brendan will be on the air with pregame coverage at 6:15 and the tip-off over on our sister station, the home of the Ichabods, Country 106.9, KTPK FM. If you would like to hear him, you got to flip your dial. If you would like to hear the game and you want to hear the K-State broadcast of it, we're going to have that right here on 580 WIBW and FM 104.9. They will get their pregame coverage started on the K-State Sports Network at 6 o'clock on the dot. So we will be giving way to that once we are done here on 580 Sports Talk. You're encouraged to be part of the show. Jump on into the live chat if you're watching on YouTube. Interact with us and with fellow listeners to the show. The live chat is open. You can also leave comments if you're watching on Facebook, WIBW News, or you can send us a text. The Top City Metal Supply text line is 785-272-9429. That is 785-272-9429 to text the program with your thoughts. Still to come this hour of the show, it's our K-State player profile of the week. Enjoyed a conversation on Monday afternoon with Will Anciaux, the redshirt freshman tight end out of Wichita. Talked about his growth as a player and his emergence as a red zone weapon for these Wildcats who just love throwing to their tight end. Spencer, we were talking about this, you and I, watching the K-State KU game at Bill Snyder Family Stadium on Saturday.
Yeah, he had a touchdown that night.
He did, his third of the season. And this is a guy that came into the year, and you'll hear him admit it, that maybe didn't think he was going to be this involved in the offense this season. But he's got 3 touchdowns, and the tight end room as a whole has 10. And no other group of tight ends in the country has more touchdown receptions than K-State's tight ends. So we'll talk some football stuff, but we'll also get to know Will a little bit. He's got 5 siblings, including an older sister who plays basketball at Wichita State and a younger brother who's got some interest recruiting-wise from Kansas State. And younger siblings than that as well. I believe he's the second of 6. So we'll hear him discuss that, and we'll also hear him discuss his favorite burger joints in his hometown of Wichita, Kansas. So, the important stuff. Will Anciaux.
Give me places to go whenever I visit Wichita.
You can't go wrong, but you're going to hear some good ones.
I will tell you, that's been, as a non-native Kansian, to the guys you've talked to that are from Kansan, sorry.
That's all right.
As for the guys that you've talked to from the state and from different parts, they give great food recommendations if you ever travel to their hometown.
It's true, and that's what I'm looking for. I have been fortunate. I am also not a native Kansan, as you all know, but I have lived in Wichita, and I have lived here in Topeka now, and have made my home here. Also lived out in Northwest Kansas, out in Colby. So I have traversed just about the entire state. I don't know that there's a corner of the state or a portion of the state that I haven't either been to or through. Maybe the far northeast corner. I haven't been any further northeast than Seneca, Nemaha Central. I've done a football game up there. I haven't been out to like Hiawatha or anything that really borders Nebraska or Missouri on that side. But just about every other part of the state, I've either been to or through at some point. And I like getting a little hometown feel from the guys because, K-State players come from all over. They come from here in Topeka. We talked to Desmond Purnell. We've talked to Will Anciaux from Wichita. Obviously, they got kids from the Wichita area. And then you've got a guy like Hadley Panzer from Lakin, all the way out in Southwest Kansas. So really enjoy doing the player profiles, and I hope you enjoy listening to them too. Whether you're a Cat fan or not, it's a fun little window into the lives of these young men who are playing on Saturdays. And Will Anciaux's interview, I thought, was a really good one. So we're excited to play that one for you later on this hour. Then I'm going to leave because I've got my son's taking pictures with Santa Claus today, and I want to be there for that. So Spencer will take you for the final half hour-ish, 20 minutes-ish, and dealer's choice, Spence. I mean, you can just turn it into a Jalen Daniels podcast, I guess.
I will not hijack the airwaves. Nobody wants to hear me talk about the Commanders. You get very little of it on Mondays and Fridays. Mondays, if they win, maybe a little bit more. And Fridays, hopeful, maybe I place one of my bets on them. But besides that, I will no longer drop Commanders propaganda on the show in the middle of the week.
Hey, they're good. Like this
unless we're talking about them in February in a matchup against the Chiefs.
This is different
in New Orleans.
Yes, this is different than when all you wanted to talk about was James Wood during the summer and the Nationals were a zillion games out of first place in the National League East. Now, brother, the Commanders are good.
Yeah.
Pound your chest a little bit. There's nothing wrong with that. So, yeah, it'll be dealer's choice with Spence. He'll wrap up the show about the final 20 minutes or so.
You know what my favorite thing to do is?
Of course, just take questions.
Yes. So if you already drop them now, if you want to, because I know somebody's going to ask, are you taking questions today? Because the last time I was here by myself, I don't think I had time to take questions because we had a bunch of stuff that I needed to get to on the show.
Sure.
So yeah,
so we have a recommendation. We have a burger recommendation from North Central Kansas on the Top City Metal Supply text line from the 785. If you ever make it to Marysville, go to the Wagon Wheel. They have a prime rib burger.
That sounds good.
That is fantastic. Now, I've been to Marysville. I called a playoff football game there, Colby at Marysville. This would have been the 2020 season that, we weren't even sure we were going to get, and then we got it. And I did a playoff game up there. Colby ended up losing to Marysville. Did the game at Homer Hanson Stadium, which I loved. One of my favorite high school football stadiums I've been to. I understand they've done some significant renovations to it in recent years, so I'll have to go back sometime. But love the layout. It's an old WPA like built stadium, Works Progress administration. Like it's old school, man. It's into the side of a hill, the big bleachers. Sick. Yeah, it's cool. Just a really cool layout there in Marysville. But I did not stop at the Wagon Wheel, and I did not see any of the black squirrels, which I was really upset about because that's the whole thing up in Marysville. They got black squirrels, which are very rare. And I found that in my research for the game. And I was hoping that I would maybe encounter some black squirrels that night in Marysville. I never did. So I'm gonna have to go back to Marysville.
Interesting place
for two reasons.
Black squirrels.
3 reasons.
Yeah.
Renovations to Homer Hanson Stadium, prime rib burger at the Wagon Wheel, and to finally see with my own 2 eyes a black squirrel. That's what I got to do out there in Marysville. What we got to do right now on 580 Sports Talk is get to our 580 Sports Talk headlines, shall we?
Yeah, let's do it.
Ross asked in the YouTube live chat, did I see the black squirrel statues? I did see those. It's not the same. It's not the same. Anyway, first headline, our 580 Sports Talk headlines. This from Adam Schefter earlier this afternoon. As WNBA expansion continues, ownership of the NWSL's KC Current has met with the WNBA and is in contention to bring the league's next franchise to Kansas City. Why is Adam Schefter on this particular note? Well, Patrick Mahomes and his wife Brittany are part of the ownership group of the Kansas City Current. WNBA is looking to add one more team, get to 16. They're adding a 15th team in Oakland/San Francisco. San Francisco. They're going to play at the Chase Center. The Golden State Valkyries, I believe they're going to be called. So they want to get to an even number. They want to get to 16. There's like plenty of women's basketball college talent to fill the league.
Oh, yeah.
Like they've got plenty of room to expand as a league, and I'd like to see them even get beyond 16 teams.
We talked about this. We talked about this in the height of the summer, I feel like.
I think we did. Yeah. When we were talking about it in the context of
when the draft was happening with Caitlin Clark.
Yes. And how, the league is kind of growing in popularity. And they're going to add a 16th team, and Kansas City is one of the cities that has a real shot at this. And I think if you look at the way that Greater Kansas City has gotten behind the Current in the NWSL to fill that stadium that is theirs and theirs alone,
brand new,
and you look at the commitment that ownership group has to the success of the Current, which included, again, building them their own stadium, a first in the United States, and building them their own training facility, which puts them streets ahead of where a lot of the other teams in that NWSL are, and they've been rewarded for that by having a great year and a chance at a deep playoff run. I believe they were second in the standings last I checked, as their season about wraps up. I don't know how you could, if it's those folks involved, I think the WNBA should say yes to Kansas City. I think Kansas City would be an outstanding WNBA city.
Oh, yeah.
And I think
you got a venue that's underused.
Yes, you could.
That's perfect for it.
Yes, you put them in the T-Mobile Center. You will get good crowds. You will get devoted, energetic crowds. You will get great support of basketball in Kansas City, because Kansas City is a basketball town. It's a great sports town, but it's a great basketball town. And all you need to do is see what the Big 12 tournament looks like there, or any of the events when the NCAA tournament or whoever, the Hall of Fame Classic, whenever they come to Kansas City shows out for hoops. They would show out for the WNBA. So I hope this happens. I hope franchise number 16 goes right in the heart of middle America and comes to Kansas City. Do it, WNBA. Do it. I'm really rooting for it.
I'm right there with you, Dan.
All right, what's your first headline?
First headline is coming from the NFL. The Vikings have acquired left tackle Cam Robinson in a trade with the Jaguars as a potential injury replacement for Christian Darrisaw. The trade is pending him passing a physical. In addition to Robinson, the Vikings will receive a conditional 2026 seventh-round pick that could go away based upon playing time, while the Jaguars will receive a conditional 2026 fifth-round selection that become a fourth, also based on playing time. He's in the final year of a contract that's paying him $16.25 million this season. The Jaguars will pay a portion of the remainder of the season's salary.
Makes a lot of sense. Christian Darrisaw is really good. That's a big, big loss for the Vikings. And they signed him to a 4-year extension earlier this year. They're going to get him back for the long haul. But they're 5-2, and they don't believe they're a fluke. They're trying to strike while the iron is hot and make the playoffs, as I think they ought to. So it made all the sense in the world for them to go out and try and find a rental. And clearly, the Jaguars are willing to make some moves. I think they probably would have been willing to move Christian Kirk. A, he got hurt, so he's not going anywhere. But B, they would have been happy to move off of his gigantic salary.
Yeah.
But I think this just goes to show you, again, we talked about this in the 3 o'clock hour. This is an extremely active trade deadline, and it's active from the perspective of impactful players moving. Like Cam Robinson's not a superstar, but he's a name, and he's a starting left tackle in this league. And you don't typically get starting caliber offensive linemen moving at the trade deadline, or even a week before the trade deadline. But there was a sense of urgency from the Vikings' part, and they got it done. Now, this is not a thing the Chiefs could have done, not with Robinson on $16.25 million. Like, there's just no way. Even if you feel like, oh, gosh, the Chiefs, you got to go get a left tackle. Wanye Morris isn't cutting it. Kingsley Su'Mata'i isn't cutting it. I don't think Donovan Smith is the answer off the street. They should have gone and gotten a left tackle. There's no way the financials could have worked for the Chiefs here. But they work for the Vikings, and I think it's a good piece of business for them.
Yep.
All right, my next headline. Let's do another NFL story. We've got a crime Yahtzee unfolding for Detroit Lions wide receiver Jameson Williams. Currently, the Wayne County Prosecutor's Office is reviewing a warrant request for his arrest on a concealed weapons charge. It was issued late last week by the DPD, Detroit Police Department, stemming from a traffic stop back on October 8th. And the warrant request was made after an internal affairs investigation was opened, after WXYZ TV in Detroit asked the police department why Williams wasn't taken into custody. According to a police report, Williams was riding as a passenger in a vehicle driven by his brother when they were stopped after midnight. Police asked Williams' brother if there were any weapons in the vehicle, and he said there were 2 guns, one in the back seat and one under the passenger seat. The gun in the back seat was registered to Williams' brother, who had a concealed license. The gun under the passenger seat was registered to Jameson Williams, who did not have a concealed license. Jameson Williams repeatedly identified himself as a player for the Lions during a stop, like you can hear on the audio. I play for the Lions. I play for the Lions. You can't do this to me. I play for the Lions.
That is somebody trying to get out of it.
Yes.
Anything possible.
So they handcuffed him and they put him in the back of a police car, but a supervisor and later a sergeant arrived at the scene and Williams was then released after a sergeant made several phone calls to higher ranking officers to find out if Williams should be arrested or if the concealed license belonging to his brother covered both guns. Finally, the sergeant made a call to a lieutenant whose comments cannot be heard in body camera audio. Williams was taken out of the handcuffs and was let go. So Williams has been suspended 2 games, currently serving a suspension for violating the PED policy. He's also served a lengthy suspension for gambling, served a 6-game suspension last year for gambling. Like, they're about to decide at this point that, is the juice worth the squeeze here? Is he a good enough player to deal with all of this? And I don't know that the answer to that is yes.
Yeah, I don't either. Too much headache. Too much off the field.
Yeah,
nonsense.
You can't be doing the do you know who I am? That has never
that
has never worked. That has never been a good idea.
Also, we've seen things in the NFL from players in the past accelerate from those things to being criminal.
Yes. So
because you have access.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, you don't really want to play around with guns.
No.
Like, you can own the guns, but if you're playing around with the guns, if you're not being like proper with like your registration, your paperwork, you just got them, have them. That's where it becomes a problem. Also, he was on the body camera saying, "Yeah, of course I have a gun. I live in Detroit," which I'm sure that will go over really well too with the fan base. Anyhow,
yep.
We're running a little low on time on headlines. So you want to jump right to the playoff roundup? Let's go ahead and do it. I caught you by surprise a little bit on this, so let's do the playoff roundup.
One more.
Nope, that's the wrong thing.
Grab the mouse and click too fast.
That's all right. Slow your roll. Let's get to the playoff roundup. There it is.
It's time for the 580 Sports Talk Playoff Roundup.
There will be at least one more baseball game in 2024. The World Series stretched to a Game 5 after the Yankees bludgeoned the Dodgers 11-4 last night. Let's call it what it is. The Dodgers ran up the white flag on this game immediately following Anthony Volpe's go-ahead grand slam in the 3rd inning. It was a bullpen game for the Dodgers. I said on yesterday's show they wanted to try and ham and egg it when it became very obvious that wasn't going to work. Or not even all that obvious, to be honest with you. I mean, 5-2 is still a game you can go and get, but the Dodgers really declined to chase it. Even when they got within a run in the 5th, they stayed with Landon Knack, not a very good pitcher. He's kind of a mop-up guy. And Knack gave up a run in the 6th that made it 6-4. And then Brent Honeywell gave up 5 runs in the 8th. That made it 11-4. You run the risk of now having given the Yankees some life and some confidence. And Garrett Cole's on the mound tonight at the stadium. Starting to feel like this one goes back to L.A. I got to be honest with you. If the Yankees can sustain what they did on offense last night.
Oh, yeah, I definitely agree with that. I mean, I said no, I did say Yankees in 6.
I think we all said Yankees in 6. We did not see. Yeah, it can't happen now. We did not see the Dodgers pitching, and I didn't see it all postseason.
Being as good as they are.
That Flaherty and Yamamoto and Buehler would be Buehler would be as good as they have been and be able to go 5+ innings in their outings. Like, that's not like, 5 innings. Like, that's not restoring the feeling, but like, that's good enough. When you have a bullpen that's performed the way the Dodgers bullpen has performed, 5 innings is sufficient. And 5+, you get 6+ like you did in Game 2 from Yamamoto. That's a big deal. So that's why the Dodgers are where they're at on the precipice of winning this thing. But it's going to be tough tonight at the stadium against Garrett Cole. It will be Jack Flaherty on the mound for the Dodgers. The jackass who tried to pull the ball out of Mookie Betts' glove last night will not be in attendance tonight. I am not going to do what ESPN and the rest of some corners of the media have done today and glorify that jerk-off by giving you his name or telling you, oh, well, Jesse Rogers of ESPN thinks he's a great hang, or Rob Gronkowski says he knew him in college. I don't care about any of that stuff. That guy's a moron, and that moron behavior shouldn't be rewarded with glowing puff pieces in ESPN. That's disgusting. That pissed me off when I saw that. You don't glorify that loser. Could have hurt Mookie Betts doing that. Thankfully, he didn't, but no, he's being a moron. He's a dummy. He's a replacement level jackass with a good ticket and a bad idea.
I will tell you, Rob Gronkowski did disown the fact that what he did. So
good. I'm glad Gronk's
Yes.
got. I'm glad Gronk's got some sense. Do you know how dumb you got to be to make Gronk the sensible one?
Yeah.
That does it for headlines. We'll come back. We'll hear from Will Anciaux, redshirt freshman tight end for K-State, next on 580 Sports Talk. Time for this week's K-State player profile. Every week, I get a chance to sit down and have a chat with a member of the Kansas State football team. This week's profile, redshirt freshman tight end Will Anciaux. And I enjoy getting to talk with Will. Enjoy the conversation. This week's Kansas State player profile on 580 Sports Talk introduces us to redshirt freshman tight end and former Cape and Mount Carmel Crusader down in Wichita, Will Anciaux. And Will, I have to start with this. As a Kansas kid who earned his way onto this Kansas State roster, how big a thrill was it for you to catch a... Well, apologies. We had a momentary technical difficulty there with the interview. So we're going to go ahead and restart the conversation with Will Anciaux. This week's Kansas State player profile on 580 Sports Talk introduces us to redshirt freshman tight end and former Cape and Mount Carmel Crusader down in Wichita, Will Anciaux. And Will, I have to start with this. As a Kansas kid who earned his way onto this Kansas State roster, how big a thrill was it for you to catch a touchdown pass in the Sunflower Showdown?
It was a huge thrill. I was really fortunate to be in the position to do that. And, like you said, being from Kansas, this game's meant a lot to me since I was a kid. And, to be able to play a role in it and in that way was pretty special and something I'm glad I was able to do.
Can you describe what that atmosphere was like at Bill Snyder Family Stadium on Saturday night?
it was electric here on Saturday. I mean, I think in my 2 years here, which isn't really saying a ton, but in my 2 years here, that was the loudest it's been. Place was bumping from start to finish, and the fans are a huge part and giving us energy on the sideline, and they were giving us tons this past game, and really thankful for that and the atmosphere they always bring.
You caught a touchdown pass, your third of the year. Garrett Oakley also visiting the end zone. We've seen Will Swanson. We've seen Braden Lofton. All told, it's 10 touchdowns for tight ends this year for Kansas State, which is more than any other team in the nation can claim. How big a point of pride is that for you and your fellow tight ends on this team, that you've been such a big part, not just of the passing game, but of finding the end zone and finishing off drives?
I think it's been something that we're pretty proud of. I think we like to pride ourselves on being reliable guys that, Avery and all the other guys can trust in to make a play and to finish off a drive, like you said. And, we're thankful that we're in the position to do that. And then the coaching staff is able to scheme up some stuff for us. And, it's always fun. And, I'm glad to see that, a lot of us are being able to have success in that area. And it's been a fun season so far, and looking forward to seeing where we can take it from here.
We're talking with Will Anciaux, redshirt freshman tight end for Kansas State, our K-State player profile here on 580 Sports Talk. It's a pretty young group of tight ends on this roster, and you're certainly part of that as a redshirt freshman. Braden Lofton is a sophomore. There's only one senior in the group, Will Swanson. I guess he's the graybeard, the old guy in the group. But how much does that help bring a group together, having so many of you guys be young and getting your first real taste of all of this action together, and, again, helping your team win games?
I think having a mix of all of us in there has been great. Obviously the younger guys with me and Lofton and Oakley getting in there. I think we bring a lot of juice there. And then I think one of the biggest things that has helped me throughout the season so far and my development has been Will Swanson. I think he's been probably the biggest key to helping me grow. And I try and pick up on every little thing that I can from him, from how he recovers, to how he watches film, to how he prepares for games, to how he practices, little footwork, technique things. I try and pick up on everything from him. And, he's been really helpful in helping me to develop and grow. And, even throughout the games, he's always in my ear, just, helping me focus on what I need to focus on. And, really grateful for him. And then all the other guys in the room too, that we have a good time in that room and never a dull moment and lots of fun. So.
Going into this season, was this what you had kind of envisioned or been told to expect for your redshirt freshman campaign, that, hey, you're going to get on the field, we're going to use you in goal line, you're going to have an opportunity to be a part of our passing game? Or is this something you kind of look at now and feel like, I'm really pleasantly surprised with how my season is unfolding and grateful for these opportunities that I've really had to go and earn?
I'd say I'm pretty pleasantly surprised with it. I didn't really know what my role was going to be this season. I knew that we've got a lot of good players in the room as well, obviously with Oakley, Lofton, and Swanson. So, I was just after fall camp, was just looking to continue to get better every day in practice and grind and maybe earn a role in the offense. And, I knew that if someone went down, I would have to be able to step up and make some plays. And, I've been happy with the season and, how it's gone so far. And I'm just looking to help out in any way that I can possible, whether that's, blocking and opening holes for other guys, or if I need to catch a couple balls too, I'm willing to do that. So just whatever I can do to help the team. And, I'll look to keep doing that throughout the rest of the year.
Will Anciaux is our guest, redshirt freshman tight end for the Kansas State Wildcats. Will, you are one of 5 siblings in a very athletic family. We know your older sister, Ella, is a senior center on the Wichita State women's basketball team. Your next oldest brother, Nick, is on the way up. Actually, a family of 6. I'm sorry, a family of 6. You have 5 siblings. So how competitive were things growing up with you and your siblings? Not necessarily on the field because you're not playing against each other, but in the backyard, in the driveway. How competitive did the Anciaux household get
it gets pretty competitive no matter what we're doing. If it's a little board game we're playing, or even like you said, in the backyard where we're like make some made up game that we have, or we're playing like horse or basketball in the driveway. Even to like little Wii games, we're all a very competitive group, and we all push each other. And to see my older sister have the success that she's had over her career at Wichita State, and to watch like Nick and all my other siblings, kind of like find their little niche in sports. It's been a lot of fun to watch them grow and develop, and I'm glad that I can play a role in helping them to develop, and they've grateful for everything they've done to help me. So
I am an older brother myself, one of just two, but I remember the feeling of pride I had when I saw my younger brother, who's younger than me by about 4.5 years, surpass my athletic accomplishments and become a much more accomplished athlete in high school and college than I ever was. When you look at your younger siblings, do you see some of that in them, the possibility for them to, as you put it, carve out their own niche athletically? And how much do you want to see them surpass the things that you've been able to do?
I'd love to see every single one of them surpass what I can do. They're all really smart kids, very, very school smart, and they carry that over into what they do. And, I think that me and my older sibling, my older sister and younger brother, Nick, have kind of helped to like give a good example for them of, hard work and work ethic, and my parents do as well. And, they're, like I said, really smart, and they're great athletes even at a young age. So I'd love to see every single one of them surpass me and become great at what they do. And, they all have their little sports that they like right now. They've got some good basketball players, and, my youngest brother just played his first season of flag football. So it's fun to watch them grow and develop and find passion for their sports.
You were a multi-sport athlete in high school. You were part of the basketball team at Cape and Mount Carmel, which means it was a lot of your old teammates who hoisted the 5A state championship last year in Emporia. I bring it up. I was there. I broadcast that championship game here for 580 WIBW. How cool was that to be able to follow your teammates as they got over that hump and won that state crown last in March?
Yeah, it was a lot of fun. I followed them the whole way. I knew they were having a great season, and I made it back to watch a couple of games last year, and I was really good friends with that whole team, and I'm glad that they had success and finished off what we couldn't finish off my senior year. But and Coach Eck, I love Coach Eck to death. He was a great basketball coach for me, a great mentor in life too, and I always had great little bits, and I keep stuff that he said with me to this day, and I'm grateful for that team and that I was able to watch them have success and go beat Highland Park, I think it was, in the state championship game. So it was great to watch them.
Do you miss hoops? Any part of you miss hoops, or are you happy you went the football route?
I'm happy I went the football route. Part of me does miss playing basketball. That was my, I think, first love with sports growing up. I always thought I was going to play basketball in college, but I'm glad I'm here playing football. I wouldn't rather be anywhere else. And, I miss it. I get out and play at the rec every now and then to, let my competitive juices and basketball flow out a little bit. And, we've got a lot of good basketball athletes on this team too. So we get some pretty competitive games going.
Who's the best hooper on the football team?
We got a lot of pretty good hoopers. Obviously Avery was a good basketball player in high school. Cheedy, guys were great basketball players, very athletic, and so I think those two are probably up there. And some of the DBs are some pretty sneaky good shooters too.
All right, we got two more questions for Will Anciaux, redshirt freshman tight end for the Kansas State Wildcats here on 580 Sports Talk. First question is, so you're Cape and Mount Carmel kid. You're from Wichita. I spent a couple of years doing sports talk radio in Wichita about a decade ago, long time ago. But I know Wichita is proud of the fact that it's got a bunch of places to get a good hamburger. So for you, Will Anciaux, when you're back in the Air Capital, what's the go-to burger spot in Wichita?
Ooh. Go-to burger spot. Let's see. I like Bricktown Brewery a lot. One of my sister's family friends, they were kind of into that for a while, so I was there a lot. I love Bricktown, and another one of my family friends, had an in at Freddy's, so we were at Freddy's all the time. I'm a big Freddy's fan, so
I was a big TJ's Burger House fan there down in Delano.
Yep, very good too.
Yeah. All right, last question for you, Will. Anciaux is how you spell your last name. It is pronounced Anciaux. What is the worst mangling of the pronunciation of your last name you have ever heard?
There's been a few. I'd say like Ankiox is probably one of the worst. There's just not a whole lot of effort in that one.
No.
But there's some pretty bad ones over the years.
Yeah, that silent X trips some people up, but they're going to have to learn it. You keep scoring touchdowns, there won't be any mistaking how it's pronounced moving forward. Will Anciaux, redshirt freshman tight end for the Kansas State Wildcats, taking some time for our K-State player profile. Will, a pleasure to get to know you better, and it's been a lot of fun seeing you step up and score some touchdowns for the Wildcats this season. Best of luck to you against Houston on Saturday and the rest of the season.
Thank you very much. Thanks for having me.
That was our Dan Lucero with Will Anciaux. Almost screwed up there because he just said about other ways that his name has been mispronounced. So almost screwed up there. But we're going to step aside for a break. We come back. We'll dive into this Ask Me Anything. Put your questions into the YouTube chat or send them via the Top City Metal Supply text line. That is 785-272-9429, 785-272-9429. Send your Ask Me Anythings to either the YouTube chat or the Top City Metal Supply text line. We'll be back for more 580 Sports Talk right here on 580 WIBW. Welcome back to 580 Sports Talk. It's the youngest in command mode now. Dan Lucero off for the rest of the show, and Brennan Dorzinski is in Manhattan as Washburn Women's Hoops gets ready to take on the Kansas State Lady Wildcats, the Midi Cats. That'll be a 6:30 tip, 6:15 pregame over on Country 106.9 with Brennan Dorzinski. You can hear the Kansas State side right here on 580 right after the end of the show. But let's I've gotten a lot of questions in here on the Ask Me Anything, so I'm gonna have to start going through them here. I believe the first one, best burger I've ever had and where. The Burger Stand, rest in peace to the Burger Stand here in Topeka. I'm probably going to be making trips to the one in Lawrence because that was an amazing burger, worth the price in my opinion. It was just great. I've had a few good burgers back east, few in West Virginia, where I went to college at Marshall, a place that's no longer in existence. It was a great burger. Then I had one up when I had my first job at Ollie's VIP Northside. Great burger there. And I had a few good burgers in the Northern Virginia area. But I'd like to say that the burgers that I make, that I cook, they're the best because I know what I want, and that's how I make them. And I love the burgers that I make. I could eat a burger every day of the week if I let myself. I don't. Once to twice a week is the max. Have I been to the Topeka Zoo yet? Yes, I have been to the Topeka Zoo. Probably going to be going back here for zoo lights in the next, say, month and a half or so. Standard time or daylight saving time. Every year, if we could just fall back and not go forward, I'd love that for the rest of eternity. That would be very weird timing because every year you'd lose an hour and it would just screw everything up because then you go back for it in spring, obviously. More hours in the day of sleeping would be great. That's all I want. I have lots of Washington man cave stuff. Yes, I do. I have a framed, Sean Taylor Pro Bowl jersey from 2000 and I believe it was 7. It was the year he didn't end up going, but he was posthumously chosen to go to the Pro Bowl. I have that framed up with a 21 towel. Unfortunately, that is not here in Topeka. It did not make either trip that came out here with me in January or with my girlfriend in the summer. And then I also have a ton of other memorabilia back east as well. Actually, funny enough, my mom was cleaning some stuff out and she's like, it is all in these boxes and please take them off my hands at your earliest convenience, which don't know when that's going to be. Got to make a trip out there to make a trip driving back out here to bring everything, if that's so choosing what I do. Who is/was my sports broadcasting mentor idol? Grant Paulson out of 106.7 The Fan in DC. Listened to his stuff growing up. Actually talked to him, had him on my last show. He's a big personality there. I would love to broadcast with him at some point. And then like play-by-play wise, I love Tom Excursion, great guy. Kevin Harlan, love his play-by-play as well. Al Michaels, there's a lot of them. Obviously Mitch Holtis, being introduced to him, been great to listen to all his calls and take things from there. It's just every single time I hear a new sports broadcaster, I take little things that they do and like, oh, I could use that this way in a call. Obviously not the same way, but like, yeah, that's kind of where I stand on that. Are me and my girlfriend well settled in here yet? I would say so. We're getting ready to move to a bigger apartment here come the end of January or so. Yeah, that's what we're doing here at the end of January, moving to a bigger apartment. It's stuck in a 1-bedroom, not great. Would like to have a home studio to be able to get things done at home. That would be great. Vance with a great question. Bone in or boneless? Bone in all day, every day. I love bone in wings. Boneless wings are just nuggets with sauce on them. I said what I said. Mark, also in there, Vance, boneless wings are not wings. Parts is parts. I would totally agree with you. Was Saturday was my first game at Kansas State. It was great. Loved the environment, both in the stands and in the press box. Great people out there. Great. They take great care of you in the press box at Kansas State. Did they have Call Hall ice cream in the press box? They had ice cream in the press box. They were little finger ones that you get. I got a Klondike bar is what I got, but I will say that pumpkin bread bar, great. That was probably the best thing I had there. Let's see, any other questions here? Any other questions going on here in the chat? Let's see. Give us a recipe for your burgers. That's a little secret there. How about that? We'll keep you in on that secret. I like smash burgers, so I will get the patty. I'll put it in a ball and I'll put it in the pan. Sometimes a cast iron pan, and I will smash it all the way out and put things on top of it. But I could also go for a good thick burger as well. But you got to put some burger seasoning on it. I got a couple things that I put on it, and then bacon is a must on a burger. Commander's going to win the division. I think they are in great position to do so. It all depends on how this gauntlet's coming, because they have a gauntlet of teams, whether that's in the division or the Steelers are among the teams that are coming up on the schedule, and the Steelers always are somehow a great team all the time. So we'll see that. My girlfriend really likes living in Topeka. A lot of things to do around here. Ross, back to your question. I love both. I don't have a preference. Give me both flats or drums, and I will devour them in any of them. Boneless wings are chicken nuggets, period. I stand on business with that. We have got to take a break. When I come back, I'll have my final word here on 580 Sports Talk on 580 WIBW. Final word time here on 580 Sports Talk. Youngest in command movement here. Spencer Dupuy, happy to have you with me here as we will turn things over to the Kansas State Sports Network here momentarily, as they will have the broadcast on 580 of Kansas State women's hoops taking on Washburn in an exhibition tip-off at 6:30. If you want to hear the Washburn call with our own Brendan Dorzinski, that's over on Country 106.9 starting at 6:15. I know I'll be tuned in. You can actually hear me next weekend with Washburn Hoops up in St. Cloud, Minnesota, Friday and Saturday. I will be on the airwaves as they take on 2 games up there. But for Dan and for Brendan, I'm Spencer saying, everyone have a great night. We'll talk to you tomorrow.